Hello everyone, this week we're going to speed paint 10 Skitarii. I actually made a few mistakes in this one, so we're going to talk through how we can do even better and get these done with a lot less hassle. I undercoated these guys black so I could do an overbrush with dark aluminium from Vallejo, which felt like a good idea. But actually, with how much effort I was going to put into the cloaks later on, it might genuinely be worth spraying these guys red and biting the bullet with the metallics. I chose to spray them black and do an overbrush of metallics because I just hate painting red over metal or any other colour over metal, especially when you've sprayed it like GW's Lead Belcher spray. It just doesn't adhere to other paint very well. So at least for this stage, with the overbrushing of the metallics, I just wiped off most of the paint, but kept a fair amount on, so it's not quite a dry brush, and just liberally applied that to all the metal areas. Yes, some of it hit the cloak, but it's far less than it would be if I'd sprayed it on, which means the red is still going to stick nicely. So I thought I was being quite clever here, as this bit only took about 15 minutes. Once that was done, I went into the worst part of the entire process and painted on Mephiston red all over the cloaks. Now here's another tip: do not attach the Skitarii to their bases. It's been a while since I painted these and I forgot just how annoying it is to reach their cloaks between their legs, especially when you can't reach it from the bottom. Take the advice, just, either spray them red if you're going to stick them to the bases, or don't stick them to the bases before you paint. You will save yourself a world of hassle. This is the perfect example here. My thumb is well in the way of the painting, but that's exactly how the base looked to me at this point. I was essentially just stabbing the brush blindly up there, hoping I didn't hit the bits I'd already painted with metallics. The next stage is to tidy up any mistakes I may have made. My brush was playing havoc a little bit, and also having to stab it up into the recesses under the cloaks made a little bit of mess, so I went back in with some pure metallic paint just to tidy up and also cover off any areas I may have missed with the overbrush. Next up is my new best friend, Black Legion, to cover in all the black leather parts and their trousers and any piping that I fancy being black. There are a fair few purity seals moulded onto these models, so I just covered them off with Xandri dust. 2 coats was more than enough. And then just to break up some of those metallic effects, I added some Runelord brass to all the inlay detail on the radium carbines and a few areas around the chest and head. Next up, continuing with the purity seals, just adding some Screamer pink, just because it's a slightly different colour. You can go in with greens, you can do blues, whatever you fancy. I just like the classic pink wax. Now, one of the best steps for covering up any heinous crimes you may have made: a pot of Nuln Oil all over the metallics. Next up, some trusty Agrax Earthshade for those parchment papers. You can also add this to some of the metallics if you fancy breaking it up a bit. I didn't because this is a speed paint, but it's a great little tip. Then going through with one highlight of thinned down Evil Sunz Scarlet, just around the edges of these robes. This was far easier than base coating and much faster. Covering off all the lenses and that plasma weapon, we're going in with Calador Sky, which is a great base coat for all our lighter blues. You might notice that some of the detail looks fairly basic, and that's just because we're trying to get these guys to a battle-ready standard for events or tournaments or whatever. All we need is 3 colours and a base, so by adding any highlights and shades, we're actually going far above and beyond what we need to do. The main thing to note though is that as long as you are happy with what you've created, that's all that matters. They just need to look decent enough from 3 feet away. Anything closer than that is just for you. Highlighting up our parchment, we're going in with Screaming Skull. Using Lothern Blue, we're going to highlight all our plasma and our lenses. The lenses are just a little sweep in the bottom left of any orbs and across their eye lenses, and then on the plasma I'm running 2 straight lines down the top right and top left corners. And then to the plasma only, we're adding some Baharoth Blue down those same lines we created with the Lothern Blue. Really quickly finishing off those wax seals with some Pink Horror. And finally, with some pale grey blue, we're going to add a line down the plasma and some dots in the opposite side of our highlights to all the lenses. So in this case on the lenses, we're dotting the top right if we've highlighted the bottom left. The final step is to add some Martian iron earth. Now, this can be applied with Citadel's texture tool, but I like to use a palette knife because you get far more control and it's far easier to clean, so I highly recommend picking up one of these. This was £4 from Hobbycraft. You might wonder why I'm always going to Hobbycraft, and it's because my girlfriend likes cross-stitch and she's always dragging me there, and I've learned to love it. There you go. After this, all we're waiting for is the longest part of the process, and that's to allow the bases to dry, which takes about 12 hours properly. And then we're going to clean up the base rooms, which is nice and easy, so we're not going to show it here. I made a few mistakes in this one, nothing major, but enough to make you think. I'd probably used a different primer colour in hindsight. Red is probably a good colour if you're going for this Martian scheme like me. I also probably shouldn't have attached them to their bases before spraying, though they're very spindly, so spraying them by pinning them is also very difficult, so it's probably the lesser of two evils, but definitely worth looking into. Overall, I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe found something useful to help you speed paint your Skitarii. Until next time, I've been Sam, see you soon.